Welcome to BP Leadership Podcast, where real leaders are made. I'm your host, Bill Purvis, and today we're in part 3 of a conversation that I've been having with my guest and friend, Hunter Patchin. Hunter's one of those millennial guys who comes from a different angle, but he sure has some leadership down. He's hungry and growing, and he's going to ask some good questions. And we're just going to talk today about BP leadership and about leadership in general, how to grow. We're also going to talk about his relationship with his beautiful-to-be bride and how he captured her and what every millennial can learn about learning to save and to work and to plan well before you take the big step of getting married. He's got a lot on the stick there, and I promise you, if you're young or you've got young people in your life that are looking to make in a career, Hunter's got some advice to give there along that line. It's going to be a great day. I look forward to getting started, so let's do it right now.
Now, what can people expect from BPO as we move forward in this year and the years to come? What can they expect to hear from you and hear from this brand?
Yeah, I'm excited about some of the future that we're doing now. What we're doing at this point with the podcast as well is pushing that direction. But the topics, we try to find the relevant topics that they're dealing with. Then we try to find perhaps, and I'm going more back to the biblical side, biblical characters and lessons that we can get not only from the secular leadership but also from the Bible, that I can take that and teach that to them so that it helps them two ways. It helps their faith and it helps their own skills. And so that we're heading in that direction. And I think the more it's kind of like trying something you haven't tried before. People say, well, I don't see the value of it. I used to tell my kids all the time, listen, you got $5. Now you can go spend it at McDonald's and buy you a hamburger and the $5 is gone. Or you can make your own lunch at home and you can take that $5 and you can invest it somewhere. You might buy a book or you know that you can learn from, or you might invest it in some type of market or whatever. Set it aside, put it in a bank, put it in savings or whatever. You get a choice to do with what you want with that money I give you. And fortunately, they began to do that. They'd say, okay, we're going to buy a book. We're going to make our own lunch. And they got further than most of their peers by doing those little things like that. And that's what I want to do. So
yeah, that's awesome. Now, what would you say to someone if they're kind of on the fence and they're straddling that line and they're listening to this and they're saying, all right, you know what, I need to do that. I haven't been investing in myself.
Yes.
I haven't been spending time, spending money, spending efforts on myself. Like you said, you got to lead yourself first before you can lead anybody else.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. What kind of encouragement and just extra push would you tell them just to say, go do it, just to push them over the edge and really get them to say, you know what, I need to commit to this?
Yeah, here's what's crazy, and that's a great question because I remember when I first, as I mentioned earlier, first heard John Maxwell. I went, and I never liked to just do something by myself if I thought it'd be beneficial. So I went and called a bunch of friends and said, I'll pay you away if you want to go. I heard this guy on a CD, and I liked it, or a cassette tape back then. Said I liked it, and I took like a whole row of guys at the same level. And I was a pastor, and so they're all there. I hate to say this. It's not an indictment of them, but I sat there and soaked it up, wrote notes, went home, said, I'm going to make this change and this change. And I had me a game plan. And I hate to say it, but almost everybody on that road that I paid their way to go, didn't cost them a dime, heard the same thing, didn't do anything with it. Over half of them have already checked out. They're no longer in ministry. They couldn't make it. The others have still been struggling. They're right where they were years ago. Mm-hmm. It's almost like it's like Groundhog Day. You go back and you think, geez, a time lapse. They don't even know time went on. They're right back there. They pushed the pause button or something and never got off. And I know that the difference was I took it and applied it, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. And so I say to somebody who's on that fence, if you're on that fence, you get to choose whether you're going to stay on that fence or get off. That's your choice. We have this saying in our home, we call it, that's on you, and that's on them. We can give the information, but it's kind of like parenting. I say it's my job to teach them what to do. It's my job to make sure they know, but it's their job as to whether they do it or not. I'm responsible to teach them, but I'm not responsible for their behavior. Yeah. And so they get that choice. Same thing in leadership. When we grow up, when we get mature, we start saying, I can improve if I'll take the steering wheel of my life and I will put the right things in, and I will discipline myself, and I will direct myself so that I can get what I want. And that way you won't be one of those sitting on the bench and going right back to the same place, but you'll be one that has progress and a real track record.
Yeah.
So that's
you said something key, and it's something you've said before, and it was funny to hear you say that, because it's not just another thing like we talk about. It's not just something you say; it's something you do.
Right.
But you mentioned that you took all those guys with you.
Yeah.
And you've made the statement before, talking about good leaders, they grow themselves, they train themselves, but the great leaders are the ones that train themselves, grow themselves, and then they grow the ones around them, and bringing them with them. You made a statement recently, and you were just talking about how some people they want to go get the goods, so then they can make it seem like, hey, I'm the big shot, learn from me.
Right.
But it's the ones that are truly great that say, look, it may not come from me. I don't care who it comes from. I just want them to get this information alongside me.
Exactly.
How important is that to bring those along with you?
That is, and see, that's either an insecurity or an ego thing.
Yeah.
The insecurity is I'm afraid if they see that I am human and I don't have all the answers, they won't follow me or like me anymore. Yeah. So that's the insecurity side. The ego side is they think if I go and get all this information everywhere else but pass it off as my own, then that makes me look good in their eyes. So that's why they'll go to these places alone, and they want to get this stuff and come back as if, here, I've got it all and I've learned it and lived it all. I think those ego and insecurity can be your lid. That can be for you what keeps you from getting any further. And so the secret's going to be, how do I throw the ego out, get rid of the insecurity, acknowledge we're all human, we all have flaws and faults, but we all want to grow together. Yeah. And honestly, if I know my heart, when I took those guys there, if they had all went and had better success and achieved more and enjoyed more life than me, and I had been the only one there that didn't go as far as them, if I'd have went as far as I went, but they went much further, I'd be more thrilled that they went further. Mm-hmm. What breaks my heart is that it was like offering it to them. I was begging them, guys, I found an answer. I can help you. Listen, I believe this guy can help me. I know he can help you. And they were like, where are we going to go eat lunch? And y'all, when are we going to do another meeting? And I'm like, please. I don't understand it, Yeah. And they have a tendency to rather just be comfortable than to grow. Yeah. And I don't think you can do that for life. I think if that's the goal and you just want to get comfortable, you can get off there, but I think you'll watch other people go. And then one day you'll be all by yourself saying, I wish I had them. Yeah. And I don't want anybody to live a life with regrets. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing. Yeah. Now let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. What did it do for you, Hunter? I watched you, as you mentioned how you listened to it younger, and then how that it began to implement into your life. You began to implement it and use it. What has BPL done for you, or what has learning leadership done for you?
I think one of the biggest things, and it's something that you teach all the time, and I've heard it 100 times in my life, but it really started to click when I, was getting later in high school and started realizing, okay, school's about to end soon. I'm kind of coming to where I'm going to need to get a big boy job and really start my life more than just, hanging out with friends at school. And it really taught me to just be yourself. Mm-hmm. Be yourself. Know who you are. It's something you always say, Miss Debbie said, know who you are, be who you are, and like who you are. Yeah. And a lot of this has not only equipped me and taught me all kinds of other things on how to lead people, how to love people, how to encourage and guide and make right decisions, but above all else, it's helped me be a better version of myself. Yeah. Where I look in the mirror and I don't just want to be the guy that comes to work and makes a lot of great decisions and then goes home and is just miserable with who I am. Right. And internally, I'm falling apart. I may look good from the external, but internally, I hate who I am. Right. I'm just unhappy. This has helped me become more of the guy that says, you know what, I'm proud of who I'm becoming. I look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm better than I was yesterday, but I'm not even close to where I want to be tomorrow. Yeah. And so that it's really helped me to be more disciplined on myself and be a little bit more punishing and saying, okay, you need to step it up because you should have made this call today. And that was a pretty terrible call you made, so now you got to come back and fix it tomorrow because after you thought about it, I was like, oh, that was terrible. So it's helped me kind of be self-evaluating, but it's also, I feel more comfortable in my skin. I know who I am, and I'm okay with saying I don't know, and that's what it's taught me. It's just being you, being the best you can be, and if you don't know, say you don't know, and then go learn so that you know the next time it comes up. Yeah. And so that's all it's done. It's just helped me, and I've had, some amazing mentors in my life. You being, one of them. Yeah. You have poured so much into me I've had, of course, my parents are just top notch. It doesn't get any better than that.
Great
and
parents.
they have just filled me up over my life and given me more opportunities than I'll ever deserve. I've got other just friends, and then even with my fiance and just the things she teaches me. Even we teach each other. It's the funniest thing to see how she'll learn stuff and then come say, "Hey, I learned this. You need to maybe try this," or "I heard you say this. That wasn't right. You need to try change it. Do this different."
Right.
And so just having those people in my life to mentor me and to surround myself with people who are where I want to go.
And y'all are growing together, too. The thing with you and Tori, and what the audience may not know, is that you're engaged now, getting ready to be married here soon. And both of y'all, beautiful couple, both of you have the right character and all the rest. And you know that God brought you together. But the thing that's going to keep you together is what you're doing now, growing together. Yeah. You'll see a lot of couples that one grows and the other doesn't, and one outgrows the other. Yeah. And when there's a big gap between their relationship, because one of them's growing, the other's not, they'll have a lot of problems. And so what y'all have done is you started off right. I know you'll keep doing it, but I think that's the right step.
Well, thank you. And and I see a lot of times too, and maybe it's just I'm different and I don't get it, but I see a lot of guys too, and they'll be in the relationship, and it's almost like they don't want their wife or their girlfriend or whatever. They don't want them to grow as much because they want to be the one to step in and say, "No, this is my decision. I made this. And this is for the betterment of the family," or whatever. Yeah. They want to be the one to call the shots and stuff. I don't care. If I make a decision or if I say something and she says, "That is stupid. That is terrible. That is not going to work. Hold on. You haven't thought about this. Let's do this." I'm okay with saying, "All right, you know what? You're right. That was pretty bad. All right, let's do what you said."
That is.
And that's the key. It's not just me making all the decisions. It's us. It's give and take. I've heard it said,
if you got to remind people you're the boss, you're not really the boss.
Exactly.
and that's it. Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, and that's that ego, insecurity thing again. Now, your generation, let me ask you this. Your generation, I think they're so hungry to want to grow. They're hungry to want to make a difference in this world. But they don't have the best voices that they're listening to or the right directions. Some of them maybe didn't get it at home, or some of them are getting it from other people. With that generation, what do you see about your generation that you like? What do you see that you don't like? What do you see about your generation that you say if they could make this change or get on this direction? Well, give me that part about those millennials now.
I think, one thing, I think millennials get a little bit more of a bad rap sometimes than what they necessarily deserve. Yeah. Because one thing that I see driven, focused people, people who just want to make a difference. Yeah. And they want to do we live in a world now where, back in the day, when my parents were growing up and they were kind of getting in the workforce, they just wanted to have a job where they worked their butts off. Yep. They went in early, they stayed late, and they came home. And whether or not they changed the world or not, it doesn't matter. They got the job done. They did what they needed to do, and they were able to provide for the family. Mm-hmm. And now we're getting in a time where a lot of these younger people, yes, they want to provide, but they don't just want to provide. They want to make a change. They want to make a difference. They want to see that they have an impact and an imprint, an impression on this world and on the younger generations coming before them, and even on the older generations, above them. Yeah. And so that's one thing that I see that I think is just really cool, is just the drive and the focus to make a difference and make a change. Yeah. Now, with that, I think because of the information overload we've got and all these different people and things you can pull information from, I think it's so easy, like you said, to just get these pop-up leaders that just teach you all this stuff, and it's more theory than it is factual proven stuff. Yeah. And so they can intake all this information because they can go watch a YouTube video or they can listen to a podcast or read a book or do whatever and gain all this information. And they don't realize that guy ain't proving it. Right. There's nothing he said that has. Yeah. Now, he may say a couple good things that's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But they come up with an idea, they think it's good, and it may work for a day, so then they go tell millions of other people. Yeah. And then 5 years later, they realize that was not a good choice. That didn't work. Yeah. And so it's just one of those, I think we have to have the filter of not saying, all right, I'm young, I'm driven, I'm going to chart my own course, but also looking and learning from the people who have done what you want to what you want to do and are where you want to go and have been where you want to be. And so
you got to pick them right. You got to pick them carefully there.
All right, well, there you have it. That is part 3 of my conversation with Bill here on the BP Leadership Podcast. And part 4, the fourth and final part of this conversation, is coming at you next week. So make sure that you stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell if you're on YouTube, so that you will get notified as soon as this podcast releases. It's going to be great because you get to hear about what is next for BP Leadership. You get to hear a little bit about what's next for the podcast and the great guests that we're going to have on here, as well as what is next for BP Leadership and our members, and all the great leadership content that we are pumping out to you guys to help you be the best that you can possibly be. So make sure you stay tuned to get ready for the fourth and final part of this conversation next week. And remember, as always, that this is where real leaders are made.